All right, welcome back here, everybody. This is Chris Powers. We're talking sports here on Talkin Sports TV. Seen 5 times all throughout the week. We're shown in the New Orleans area, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and in Morgan City, reaching about 2 million households and having a good time doing it. We've got great sponsors like TJ Ribs, Attorney Tony Clayton, and Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival. This is probably one client we probably won't have, guys, is going to be Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel used to be so good. They've gotten so bad. So I'm going to Birmingham, Alabama for a tournament, and we stop at a Cracker Barrel in Meridian, Mississippi. Took us 2 hours to get our food and get served and all that. But you're going to like this one, Alan. So I'm sitting there, and there's a guy behind me at my 8 o'clock. He's got a purple and gold shirt on, like a fishing shirt on. And I'm like, well, man, it's LSU colors in Mississippi, but whatever. It might not be LSU, it might be just purple and gold shirt. And so 5 minutes later, I get a tug on my shirt, and it's him. And he does have an LSU shirt on. It's LSU on the front. And he goes, hey, so you're not doing your show this week? I said, oh, yeah, no, we did it on Monday. So he is a big fan of the show. He was going through Meridian, Mississippi, and was going somewhere, and he was asking about LSU baseball and what have you. Big viewer of the show, so want to tell him hello. And that was unbelievable. His name is Ken, and he was just came up there and said, hey, Chris, I like your show and everything like that. Love the way you you talk about sports and you talk slow and you do that. I said, that's because I'm talking slow because I have to do the whole hour, because other than that, I talk so fast people can't understand a word I'm saying. Siri trying to understand me and what I'm saying? Hell no. Siri's got all kind of crazy stuff when I try to talk to her. All right, March Madness. We're midway through March, and March Madness is kicking in big time right now. And the Lady Tigers are in the NCAA tournament in the first round. They will host the first round for Baton Rouge this week. That's pretty awesome. But the thing that shocked me is that LSU is the number 3 seed. They have a better record than UCLA, and they put UCLA at number 2. Shocking when that happened. And, so they're going to take on Rice in round 1. That's Friday at 3 o'clock. And when I looked at that and I said, you know what, the committee is so smart in what they did. Because, so round 1 they play Rice, but round 2 they play Louisville in Baton Rouge if Louisville wins, which I'm sure they will. And that's going to be Haley Van Lith's rematch with her old team, Louisville Lady Cardinals. And that would be on Sunday. Was kind of shocked by that, and kind of, everybody looked at Haley Van Lith at that time when they announced that Louisville would be coming to Baton Rouge, and smiled at Van Lith, and Van Lith smiled back and all that stuff. And it's going to be, a lot of emotions going through that. It could work either way. Van Lith could have her best season ever, best game ever at LSU against her old team, or they could be so motivated to beat Van Lith, it's not even funny. So that's going to be on Sunday, but Friday, LSU will play that first round against Rice. They asked the NCAA, begged the NCAA if they can do a Friday-Sunday matchup because gymnastics is doing a SEC championship in New Orleans at the Smoothie King Arena. I was kind of weird. I was like, well, gymnastics don't have a meet. They're just hoping that the fans that go to the Friday game at LSU, Lady Tigers, would be able to have an opportunity to go to New Orleans to watch them in the SEC gymnastics meets, which will be big because SEC is pretty big in gymnastics. But anyway, going back to the Lady Tigers, they're in the round of the playoffs. Kind of shocked again they were the number 3 seed. Everyone kind of thought that if they make to the SEC tournament finale, which they did against South Carolina, that they would be able to be a number 2 seed at least, not a number 1, but a number 2 seed, and that did not happen. Don't know what the reasoning was behind that. So it's just one of those crazy things. So with that being said, so if LSU beats Louisville in round 2, they will play against the UCLA Bruins at the number 2 spot in that bracket, and that's kind of crazy. So then if they beat UCLA, then they would play Iowa in the Elite 8. And then from Iowa, they would go on to the Final Four. But this is what I thought about. So, like I said, I thought that the committee was smart when they did this. I said, oh, man, they're big-time smart. They're putting LSU against Louisville. That's going to be a story within a story. Again, newspapers and TV people, they all want these stories before the game starts, and then the game generates other stories and what have you. So Van Lith takes on Louisville. But what were they thinking? What were they thinking when they put LSU on the same side of Iowa and the Lady Hawkeyes? So that's a rematch of the national championship. Think about that. That would be a bigger game if LSU and Iowa made the first game of the Final Four in Cleveland. That would be a huge ratings matchup. The TV ratings would go out the roof with that. But they didn't do that. And then, not to mention that, so they put Iowa in Regional 2 in Albany, and in Region 1, it's South Carolina. So if South Carolina gets through their bracket, they would take on in the first game of Cleveland either Iowa Hawkeyes in a rematch of the first game of the Final Four last year, or a rematch with LSU for the third time this year. It'd be a huge ratings winner if they put LSU and South Carolina, if they won their Final Four matchup, and would be in the Final Four in the championship game. They would get well over 10 million people. Had 8 million people last year for the LSU-Iowa matchup. That even beat NBA games. For the LSU-South Carolina game or the Iowa and South Carolina game at a rematch of last year's Final Four, that would be a monster ratings winner. I think they made a major mistake by putting but South Carolina, Iowa, and LSU in the Albany matchup. I really do. So LSU would have to go through Iowa to get to the Final Four, and to get to the championship again, they've got to go through South Carolina, and then they will play whoever is left in the national championship game if they get that far. And you know what? I'm going to say this, and I know some people are going to be upset and what have you. I'm a fan of Kim Mulkey. You know that. I'm a fan of LSU Lady Tigers. I follow them, love it, everything else. Last year, I felt that LSU was going to win the national championship early on. I told one of the stats guys at LSU, he looked at me like I was crazy. I told also Jim Kleinpeter from The Advocate, looked like I was crazy. The way they're playing, I'm telling you they're going to win. Chris, I think it's too early. This year, I don't think LSU's winning a national championship. They don't have the bench to do it. They just don't. And, last week, I know, Jonathan, you missed that last week. Not Jim Kleinpeter, the Advocate writer.
Reed Darcy?
No, it was from the LSU basketball deal. I just talked about his name, and we covered Saints football together.
Sheldon Mickles?
Yeah. He told me that Will Wade once said that bench scoring is overrated. It's not big. Are you kidding me? You're asking your starting five, which LSU starting five, to play 40 minutes. Yeah. And we saw what happened. So the bottom line is it's out. The blueprint's out. If I'm a head coach of an opposing team, I'm running and gunning all game long. I'm running and gunning. I'm not letting LSU play their half-court offense like they do. I'm running and gunning all game long, and I'm going to juice them out. You saw Van Lith couldn't even hardly pass the ball against South Carolina in that first game because she was so tired.
Yep. And you had Michaela Williams kind of hit that freshman wall a little bit right towards the end of the season for LSU. But this week and a half time off couldn't come at a better time for LSU. You lose last year, Poa, in the second-to-last game of the SEC tournament. She's been playing some big minutes for LSU. She allowed Haley Van Lith to kind of move to that two-guard where she's more comfortable. You mentioned the storylines with Van Lith facing Louisville. You have to have last year Poa for that game. She's going to play a critical role for LSU. And you mentioned the depth. I have to agree with you. You lose Kateri Poole, you lose Shemaya Smith. Those two players that played a big factor not only last year, but we're going to get big minutes this year. Not available for Coach Kim Mulkey. So not enough. They would be Jimmy's and Joe's if this was the men's team, but Janie's and whoever else. Just not enough players.
I think they'll get past the first round. I think they'll get past the second round. I think they can even probably beat UCLA because they played South Carolina in both games. They played South Carolina good.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to get past Iowa, though, because you have to play. You know that. Tournament play is you play on a Friday, you play it again on Sunday. Bam, 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 bam. You're playing it quick like that. No turnaround. You're going to get wore out. You've had this week off. Well, I'm not a big fan of that, but guess what? You can't complain about that, John, because of the fact, guess what? You have two of the last national champions came from SEC. I'm not a big fan of doing the SEC tournament a week before the seeding is announced.
Right. And
LSU, I understand why they do it.
LSU was a 3 seed last year. Obviously took it all the way to the national championship, but you don't have a Jasmine Carson coming off the bench to hit near 9 threes in 3 games. Not enough players. I think heaven forbid for an Angel Reese to get into some foul trouble. You mentioned the pace of the games, wearing some guys, some ladies out, but Well, you get Anissa Moore or Angel Reese in foul trouble, and you will see LSU really struggle to get any rebounds against a team with any kind of size.
Right, and we still don't know. Okay, so last year Poa talked about, they haven't announced that she's going to be back. She's talked about it, that she has got on the treadmill and that she's going to try to do practices this week. Don't know if she's going to be available for Friday's game or Sunday's game if they make it to against Louisville. And she's a big factor. You need her in that game. Not that she's going to score 100 points, but at the same time, you said you put Van Lith at that 2 spot, and Van Lith's more comfortable at that spot, hitting those threes. And again, so when you're playing your old team like that, like you remember, you saw the video. I'm sure you've seen the social media video of Arizona State, how they were all at Jaden Daniels'
going through his
locker room.
Yep.
And trashing him and all that stuff. He goes on to win the Heisman Trophy and what have you. I don't know what the reaction was when Van Lith left Louisville.
Right.
I mean, she wanted to win a national championship, obviously, come to LSU. I think it took her a while to get into the system, and I don't think she's fully into it yet.
Right.
If I was her dad, I'd say, darling, stay another year.
Well, you have to give Van Lith credit. I mean, a lot of these players that are going to transfer portal situations, you go to a lesser talented team, you're going for more playing time. That was not the case for Van Lith. She was going to a national defending champion team where she knew her role was going to change completely, a whole new position. You got to give her credit. She was not afraid of the challenge, wanted to come challenge herself against the best in the league. Obviously, the SEC, just like the men, is the top conference in the league. And Coach Kim Mulkey has brought out a lot of fire out of Kelly Van Lith. And, I'm with you. I would plead with her to come back one more season. She can only grow, make that NIL money at LSU. There's no loss of opportunities there for the women to make some money here in school. So I agree. For both Angel Reese and Haley Van Lith, there's plenty of opportunities to make money in school. You get a whole other year to hone your game, compete. And you're playing in front of packed crowds at the PMAC. When you go on the road, SEC venues, setting records to come see you play. You go to WNBA, you're playing in front of dozens of fans every night.
Right.
I agree with you, Chris.
Yeah, I agree. Stay there another year. And so, it goes back to, again, even that, you stay 3 years, go to the WNBA, you're not eligible. Men's team is the only one, on the men's side, is the only one that allow one and done. And Calipari comes out and says, hey, one and done's not a big deal. We enjoy it. We embrace it, what have you. Finally, Rick Pitino comes out and says, that is stupid. Jamal Mashburn didn't get good until his junior season. I can't stand the one and done. I've been saying that for years. No one's been listening, and everybody's been, it's not a big deal. Yes, it is, especially, Jonathan, you know that for basketball. One is they're immature, so they're too immature. They're 20-year-old kids going to the NBA. Professional sports, professional basketball. And number two, if he's a cancer, you know how quick that cancer goes on a team that's had, 12 players on the team, 15 players on the team on the NBA side? Yeah. It goes big time. And in football, it takes a while for the cancer to spread around the locker room, but when it does, it does. But it may take 2 weeks. But in basketball, it does it in 1 week. And in the NBA, you're having a one guy who comes in there. Remember the guy from Morant from Memphis? Look how bad that is. Look how that's working out.
Yeah.
It's just horrible, and that's why I like more of this. So my point is that for Van Lith, it took you this long to get acclimated. You're averaging 11 points a ball game. Stay another year. You've got another year of eligibility because of COVID. Stay another year at LSU. Improve your draft stock. You know who's going number one this year, and Angel Reese is predicted like fourth.
Yep.
So if I'm Angel Reese, I stay another year too. You'll make more money at LSU probably than the WNBA. And then also for Van Lith, same thing. And LSU could have a monster team next season. And I don't know if you saw that, but during the NBA All-Star game, the commissioner comes out and says that the G League team may be in jeopardy because they're making more money in college in the NIL than they would be the G League team. So the G League team for NBA may be gone.
And really, that's one major positive, in my opinion, from NIL is keeping these college athletes in school longer, improving the product. You're not just having one and done every single year. You're having to restructure the entire roster. You might be bringing back a couple of juniors, a couple of white guys that aren't going to play a lot of minutes for you. But, that's one positive, I believe, that has come from the NIL, keeping these kids in school for longer. look, Angel Reese, you're talking 7 figures with her NIL deal. She's making serious money, not only with the sponsorships, but her social media following is serious. And I don't think that it would necessarily decrease her social media following, that is, when she goes to the WNBA, but she has so much more access to the campus and all the kids, and there's just a different vibe for college athletes than there are for professional athletes, especially for those relatable, approachable kids. And look, you saw Livy Dunn. She's not even able to go to school to real class anymore because she has to have bodyguards escort her. Now she's completely online. Well, Angel Reese also had to do that because they had some creeps out there, and that's going to come with the territory. Look, if you have 4 million followers on social media, it's happening anyway. It's just hitting a little closer to home now with these girls trying to go to class and getting followed to class, but. Stay in school. It can't hurt the program, obviously. It's going to be good for recruiting. You're bringing back these very talented girls that can also, make a ton of money and have social media followings.
Right.
It's a big deal for these young girls.
Right. You think Livy Dunn staying?
No. I don't think.
You got
Look, Livy Dunn could do absolutely anything she wanted outside of gymnastics. I mean, go sell makeup, whatever she wanted to do. I think for her sake, as long as she doesn't get hurt, I say stay in school as long as they'll let you.
But would that happen next year? Would her social media be exploding next year if she's not at LSU? Because we all know, she's good. I've seen her.
Right.
Is she one of the best gymnasts at LSU? No.
Right. Is she going to be in Paris competing for the Olympics?
Yeah.
No.
So I doubt. Yeah, she's not going to be in the Olympics.
Yeah. Right.
So I would stay if I'm her. I'd stay because I got a feeling that social media, bye.
Well, she's got to ride out the relationship with Paul Skeens at least. Until she leaves LSU.
Exactly. All right, so let me ask you, who do you think the favorite is to win the national championship in women's basketball?
Well, you got to go South Carolina. They just have too much size. They've been outstanding for so many years. Still undefeated. Rosario, look for LSU. She's in her own height, 6'5", but she just looked petite. Compared to whatever that big giant girl's name is from South Carolina, to push little girls like Flau'jae Johnson.
Right.
You got to take the favorite, though. I was listening to this bracketologist guy, and I don't really get big into the brackets. Actually, this is the most busy part of the year at the Poche House. We're doing travel baseball. We're doing soccer. So I might fill out one for ESPN just to get lucky and maybe win the $1 million. But for the women, I'm going South Carolina. For the men, I'm going North Carolina. So staying in the Carolinas.
Oh, wow.
ACC and the ACC, but for North Carolina. South Carolina, obviously in the SEC, but not a huge fan of Dawn Staley, obviously.
Yeah, same thing.
But if I'm not giving it to Coach Kim Mulkey, you got to give her credit. She does an outstanding job, not only in her coaching but recruiting, and got to give it to the favorites.
Right. Right now, South Carolina is the tops at -120. In Vegas. Number 2 is Iowa, and number 3 is LSU. LSU, they've got them at plus 650 right now. You go by that or not, by Vegas's odds. I just don't think LSU is going to have it this year. I think Kim Mulkey will win another championship or 2 at LSU. I really do. I just feel that that's going to be the factor for them this year. On the men's side, who's got the last laugh now? Will Wade. He gets McNeese State Cowboys in the NCAA tournament in the top 64, and the only team from Louisiana to make the top 64. Now, Grambling makes a play-in game, but McNeese makes it into the top 64. They are the number 12 seed. They'll take on number 5 Gonzaga. Gonzaga's always overrated because they play in a very weak conference. They don't have a bad pre-conference, record sometimes. They'll win some big games, what have you, but they never can win the big game. They made it to the national championship one time. They've been to the tournament so many times in a row. I remember when Southern played them, they were the number 1 seed. I think it was 16 or 17. Gonzaga was the number 1 seed in the tournament, and Southern came that close from beating them. It was close. Coach Roman Banks was the head coach of the of Southern Jaguars at that time. So Gonzaga will be taking on McNeese State Cowboys, but for the Cowboy fans, don't get excited. He's gone. There's no doubt Will Wade is gone. Will Wade will either accept, probably Louisville fans want Will Wade. It looks like he's going to Louisville at least. So that's the latest what we're hearing for that. He's 2-3 in the tournament play. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. But Will Wade's got McNeese playing great. They've only lost 3 games this year. And they gave him a 5-year extension, but that didn't mean anything. I don't know what the buyout is in that extension. Jonathan, have you heard it? What the buyout could be?
You got to give Will Wade credit, though. In his introductory press conference, he said, look, this team lost 23 games.
Right.
Next year we're going to win 30. Hey, he hit the nail on the head. 30-3 for the Cowboys. That's outstanding work.
Yeah, unbelievable. That guy's turning around. You got to give him credit. He's a good coach. Understandable. Grambling State makes the play-in game. They won the SWAC championship this weekend in Birmingham. They'll play Wednesday at 5:40 against Montana State for the right to play number 1 Purdue on Friday. Grambling did look better. Johnny Jones got Texas Southern back in the championship round again. Johnny Jones seems to do that every single year in the SWAC, but this time he got beat. He was overmatched by Grambling State. It wasn't even close. LSU makes the NIT tournament. We'll play in Baton Rouge tomorrow night versus North Texas. It's the first time they've been in the NIT since 2018. The Tigers finished 17-15. North Texas finished 18-14. St. John's says thank you, but no thank you. They did not accept an NIT bid. They thought they were too big for that, and so they don't go to the NIT.
So the Will Wade buyout, $1 million if he leaves McNeese prior to August 31st of 2025.
Which is easy for someone to make, but $700,000 for a McNeese State Cowboy basketball coach? Now, I'm wondering if that's more than what the football coach makes.
Right.
Because I know with those schools like that, those FCS schools, they don't make,
right.
I mean, $400,000, $500,000. Right. They're paying them $700,000. That's got to be more than what the football coach is making.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. But so what a big week this week for LSU. All right, so tomorrow – they not only play in the NIT at the PMAC, they also got a baseball game against Louisiana Tech. And then this weekend, LSU will be in the NCAA tournament on Friday and Sunday at the PMAC, while baseball has got a rematch with the national championship round with Florida coming into town. So that's going to be huge. That's going to be really big. So a lot of things going on the campus. The SEC Championship Gymnastics is going to be meet in the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. How many people will show up? Don't know. Will it be a big-time deal there? I don't know. SEC's loaded with talent. LSU was the number 2 team for the longest time in the SEC in gymnastics, so we'll be able to see how that goes. All right, we're going to hit the diamond coming up next when we continue as we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. Real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouget today.
We already know that TJ Ribs on Acadian I-10 is home to the world-famous baby back ribs. But did you know they're also champs in catering events and the most delicious wings in Baton Rouge? TJ Ribs wings are flavored to perfection and starts a party in your mouth. Served with homemade wing sauce and ranch dressing. TJ Ribs can also cater any event, large or small, with the MVP, the Heisman, or even if you're feeling the natty package. Call 225-283-1035. Come enjoy a drink at the 50-foot bar and take a picture with the Heisman Trophy at TJ Ribs, a Baton Rouge original for over 30 years on Acadian and I-10. The 52nd Annual Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival is just around the corner, and the fun begins on Saturday, March 23rd for the Julian Dufresh Strawberry Day in the Park. There'll be a wing cook-off, car show, strawberry auction, bake-off, and more. Plenty of fun for the whole family. Then, the 52nd Annual Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival runs from Friday, April 12th to Sunday, April 14th with live music, and the parade is on Saturday, April 13th. Get involved in the egg toss and the always popular strawberry eating contest. Of course, get the best strawberries in the world, grown by local farmers. The biggest festival in the South, the 52nd Annual Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival, April 12th through 14th. We'll see you there. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, here on this week of already March 18th. Hope that you're having a great one. And, of course, we're on Cox Cable right here on Pelican Sports TV. And LSU baseball lost the series to Mississippi State this week. There's some fans that are going crazy and going, oh, my God, the roof's falling in, the roof's caving in. LSU lost 10-4 on Friday. They won 9-8 on Saturday, and last night lost 15-5 at a 10-run rule in 8 innings. And everybody going nuts over that. They gave up 33 runs this weekend. And, you know, don't panic because of the fact that the LSU pitching staff has done great all before this. They've been great. Their ERA was very low. I think it's 1 point something before this. So, yeah, they struggled this week. 33 runs batted in against Mississippi State this week. The Bulldogs had that, by the way. And not only that, but they also had errors all over the field. That's what First Jay Johnson said. We had too many errors this weekend. They had 6 errors, 2 in each ball game. That's a lot of errors for that, and it didn't help the pitching staff out at all. So for the Tigers bats, they batted 25 for 100 this weekend. That's a 250 average. That's not going to get it done, obviously, no question about that. But again, it's early. Don't panic. They're still trying to find their way. They're still trying to find that the starting really 8 that's going to be there, and really their starting 3 as well for pitching. So it's going to take time, but they're going to get it. This team is talented. Remember when we talked to Chris Blair, back in week 1, he told us how talented this team is. It's monster talent. It's just bursting at the seams in talent. So they're going to be fine. But they start the SEC play at 1-2. Way too early to tell that. And again, they're going to drop. They won't be the number 2 team next week. They won't be number 2 team by the end of this week. In fact, the polls will come out at some point in just a moment. But they'll drop in that poll. There's no question about that. And when they take on the Florida Gators this week, it would have been nice to have that as the number 2 ranked team in the nation, or even number 1. But that won't happen. A rematch of Florida will be this week. They'll play Louisiana Tech on Tuesday at 6:30 here at Alex Box Stadium. And then they'll play on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against the Florida Gators coming into town. Friday's game and Sunday's game will be on the SEC Network, and Saturday's game will be on SEC or ESPN Plus. You can check that out on the stream, so we'll be able to watch that. So it ought to be a big weekend this week. LSU taking on the Florida Gators in that rematch of last year's national championship round where LSU won 2 out of 3. Obviously saw that Florida dominated in Game 2. LSU dominated in Game 3. The LSU Lady Tigers softball team lost their first game last night, 5-2 to Ole Miss, and they did it because of 3 errors in the top of the 7th inning by one player, the third baseman, Sierra Daniel. And everyone thought that, she had 1 error before that game started last night. 1 error. She's a freshman. And I'm seeing Alan shaking her head. Should she be replaced tomorrow or tonight? They play tonight, Ole Miss in Game 3. And she would be replaced today if it's up to Alan, huh, Coach? She committed 3 errors in the top of the 7th when they were tied at 2. And they lost that ball game, their first loss of the season. And that's going to, obviously I know Beth Torina is going to keep her in for tonight's game. There's no doubt in my mind because, she's a freshman. You don't want to, put a scar on her or anything like that. But she'll probably stay in today's game at third base. That's who they have. They could move somebody else there probably, but more than likely Sierra Daniel will be in the starting lineup tonight when the LSU Lady Tigers take on the Lady Rebels of Ole Miss. Ragin' Cajun baseball team. Oh, by the way, their record's 24-1. Lady Tigers softball. They're 24-1. They're going to travel to Missouri this weekend. They will not be here at Tiger Park. They're going to travel to Missouri on Friday through Sunday of this coming weekend. Ragin' Cajuns baseball team 11-8 and will play Southern on Tuesday in Lafayette. The Cajuns took 2 out of 3 against Arkansas State this past weekend. They're 2-1 in the Sun Belt to open up the season and tied for the second place spot. They're still getting their stuff going, and they did well against Arkansas State. They'll probably do well against Southern on Tuesday. That game is going to be in Lafayette, Louisiana. And as far as Southern goes, it's going to be tough to watch Southern this year. Coach Crenshaw told us that before the season started. Hey, look, we're going to be a whole new different baseball team. We got, out of all our positions, 1 player was coming back, and he wasn't a perennial starter either, the shortstop. So it's going to be one of those crazy years this year where we're going to still try to build stability throughout the season. But they They played one game this weekend. They started it on Friday, didn't finish it until Saturday night, and they called the games on Sunday. They had to move the game, the rest of the game on Saturday. They had to move it to New Orleans to play. But they didn't be able to finish it on Saturday because of the fact that just the rain period on Sunday. New Orleans had a 100% chance of rain all throughout the day. They had storms coming in from the Gulf and what have you, so they canceled it. And Coach Crenshaw says that he hopes to make it up in Houston when they play Texas Southern later on this year. And they'll have to play, let's see, they missed 2 games there, at least 4 games if they can get it in. Because I don't know if you know that, but, baseball has to get a certain amount of games in for it to be, eligible for tournament play and what have you. So they're going to have to try to get that game in. So Southern will go to UL Lafayette on Tuesday, and will play against Suno on Wednesday. And then next weekend, this coming weekend, they'll be on the road and heading it out. So Southern starts the season at 0-1. Jonathan, are you panicking yet about LSU baseball? Yeah.
The pitching's going to come around.
Yeah.
You thought, Thatcher Hurd was going to be one of the best pitchers in the nation. He struggled a little bit to start the season, so he has moved to that Sunday role. Gave up 3 runs early on Sunday. LSU did find a way to come back and tie that ball game. I thought that's when Jay Johnson should have took him out. He had already gone through the lineup twice. Guys were hitting him hard. Tommy White, Jared Jones both made plays, incredible diving catches down the line to save him at that tied score 3-3. So I think Jay Johnson's left Thatcher Hurd in a little bit too long yesterday. Got to give it to these newcoming freshmen, Stephen Milam, Ashton Lawson playing big innings for LSU. If you're a freshman starting the SEC, especially at LSU, that means you went through the MLB draft. You're an absolute stud. So these guys are going to take a little time to get their feet under them. Tommy White also started kind of slow, but did have 2 homers in the weekend. He's going to come around and be one of the best hitters in the nation. Still waiting on Travinsky to kind of find himself. So lots of baseball still to be played. Coach Jay Johnson, one of the best in the nation at the head coach spot. So not the time to panic. Still got a lot of baseball left.
Tommy White's showing right now he could be a top 5 pick next year.
Yep.
That guy is just unbelievable.
No, the bat was outstanding last year, but he's been phenomenal at third base in the field for him this season.
I know, fielding has been incredible.
Showing he's an absolute pro at third base.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. That guy is just really going. It's going to be one of the, again, a long line of just great top 5 or top 10 talent that LSU makes Major League Baseball draft. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you still got the outfield. You talk about Paxton, Kling, and Pearson.
Yeah.
These guys have lots of SEC at bats. They're going to come through when the time when their number's called. So absolutely not time to panic. The errors are a concern. Look, they had a shortstop that played for LSU last year, Jordan Thompson. He struggled at shortstop a lot of periods of time in his LSU career, but had absolutely his best run when the chips were on the table when they were going for that national championship. So got to have faith. You got to have faith in Jay Johnson. Look, there's a reason he hates the defending national champion moniker. You get every team's best shot every time you go out to the diamond, and that's what happened to Mississippi State. You even heard the announcers say on Sunday, this has been the best crowd Mississippi State has had in years, and that's going to be the environment LSU faces every time they go on the road just because they're the defending national champions.
That's no question. And they're LSU. I mean, they're intimidated with 7 national championships. There's no question about that. Shortstop, too, is the hardest position to play in all of baseball. The hardest on your body is catcher. I played all positions except catcher. Never wanted to play catcher at all. Kills your knees.
Yep.
Kills your knees.
Yeah, and Chris Briller talked about it. I mean, you have an entirely new infield, an entirely new outfield. You're still trying to find your pitching rotation. Your ace is a guy you transferred in this season. So still a lot of time to kind of figure out the lineup. If you remember, going into last season, going into the SEC tournament, they were still tinkering with the batting lineup. They moved Trey Morgan from first to second to third. Look, Jay Johnson knows what he's doing. This team is uber talented, lots of MLB talent. They're going to get it right. Don't panic just yet.
Yeah, it's very early, and they'll get it right. No question about that. All right, when we come back, we're talking New Orleans Saints, what they're doing now and what they could be doing for the future. All of that and a whole lot more when we come back. We're continuing right here, talking sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV. The 52nd Annual Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival is just around the corner, and the fun begins on Saturday, March 23rd for the Julian Dufresh Strawberry Day in the Park. There'll be a wing cook-off, car show, strawberry auction, bake-off, and more. Plenty of fun for the whole family. Then, the 52nd Annual Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival runs from Friday, April 12th to Sunday, April 14th with live music, and the parade is on Saturday, April 13th. Get involved in the egg toss and the always popular strawberry eating contest. Of course, get the best strawberries strawberries in the world, grown by local farmers. The biggest festival in the South, the 52nd Annual Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival, April 12th through 14th. We'll see you there.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouget today.
We already know that TJ Ribs on Acadian I-10 is home to the world-famous baby back ribs. But did you know they're also champs in catering events and the most delicious wings in Baton Rouge? TJ Ribs wings are flavored to perfection and starts a party in your mouth. Served with homemade wing sauce and ranch dressing. TJ Ribs can also cater any event, large or small, with the MVP, the Heisman, or even if you're feeling the Natty Package. Call 225-283-1035. Come enjoy a drink at the 50-foot bar and take a picture with the Heisman Trophy at TJ Ribs, a Baton Rouge original for over 30 years on Acadian and I-10. All right, welcome back, everybody. Here we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, here on this week of March 18th. And the New Orleans Saints, not too early to talk about the Saints making cuts and spending in the free agent market. And don't get excited. They're not making huge splashes. They're signing some free agents, but nothing to get excited about any of the things they're doing. They signed New Orleans native wide receiver Stanley Morgan, who played at St. Aug. He's more of a special teams guy. He played in 60% of the Cincinnati Bengals' roster when they played on special teams. He's played the last 5 years in Cincinnati. He runs a 40 and a 4.5, so he's not got tremendous. I mean, it's good, but it's not blazing speed like you'd be in the 4.2, 4.3, or 4.4. But he look for him to be a wide receiver. No, not much. In the 5 years that he's played, he hadn't caught many footballs. Wide receiver Cedric Wilson has. Now they've got him from Miami. He started in 7 games in his 5-year career. He has 1,269 yards and 11 touchdowns on his career. So we'll see. That's going to be a guy you're going to see as far as wide receiver goes. He should be able to make a difference with that. The big sign for them was linebacker Willie Gay from Kansas City, signed on a 1-year, $3 million deal. Now, Willie Gay says he wasn't getting playing time in Kansas City. It's the reason why he left Kansas City. So you're at weak side linebacker, and Pete Warner has played 83% of the snaps. I don't know what his thinking is. So, Jonathan, you watch a lot and listen a lot about the Saints. Something was said behind the scenes there for him to come to New Orleans. Even a 1-year contract, $3 million deal. Is it that Pete Warner's always getting hurt? Did Loomis tell him, hey, we'd like to see you compete, put a little fire under Pete Warner's butt? Something's got to be happening with that for him to be a weak side linebacker, and he's coming to New Orleans where a guy plays 83% of the time.
Yeah, and I think losing Caden Ellis the year before for the Saints to the Atlanta Falcons was a bigger deal than they wanted to admit for the Saints. He played a lot of different roles in that linebacker room. In the aging Demario Davis, you pick a Zach Bond in a draft a few years ago. He hasn't really panned out the way you thought he was for a third-round tender that you picked him at. Willie Gay, I don't see it as a big splash, Chris. Nope. It has been like one of the only moves, as you made clear, the Saints have done this offseason, but finally get under the cap, so like $15 million under the cap, which is a little bit of breathing room. So it's not over for the Saints to make some moves. Not super excited about the Willie Gay Jr. A guy didn't have a lot of tackles for Kansas City, mostly a special teams player, but in a room, the linebacker room for the Saints that does need more depth. And look, like I mentioned, an aging Demario. You mentioned Pete Warner's had trouble staying on the field. A Zach Bond that hasn't really panned out the way you wanted it to work out. So I don't mind the addition. Do need some help in that linebacker room, but not super excited about the Willie Gay Jr.
No, and Demario Davis, which 100 years old, 97% of the snaps he had last year.
Yep.
And there was talks about trading him, and I understand that from a business point because he still has trade value.
Right.
But at the same time, you don't cut a guy like that. Now, if you want to totally rebuild your team, so he did re-sign his contract, And so he wants to finish his career in New Orleans.
Right.
And I hope he does, because we don't want him to go.
Right. Andres Pete is actually visiting the Titans today, Chris, the offensive line for the Saints. If they lose Pete and don't restructure Ramtrack the right way, the Saints are going to look at a major, major rebuild, despite who the quarterback is here coming up soon.
Right. Speaking of quarterback, Nathan Peterman, who is a journeyman, comes from Chicago. Don't get excited about him. He has 4 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Alan, you and I could do that. I can throw 4 touchdowns, and I got 13 picks. Unbelievable. He'll compete for that backup role. I don't even think he makes the team, especially if the Saints do get maybe a draft, some kind of quarterback. If they've got 9 picks. If they move somewhere up and get where they can get a decent quarterback, I don't think Peterman makes the team. Now, there's other people that are out there that they're still going, and I don't know what you think about this, Jonathan. I don't. One guy, defensive end Chase Young, he was coming into New Orleans. They had to reschedule the meeting and what have you. I'm not a big Chase Young fan. He's huge as hell. He's 6'5", got a wingspan that can hug Kamala, the former professional wrestler. You remember, Alan, if you remember Chase? Chase was in that in the finalists for the Heisman Trophy with Joe Burrow. Was there, and huge. He's the biggest guy there. He's huge. But since he has been playing in 5 years, he has 16.5 sacks. Yeah. Guess how much Granderson got last year? 8.5. Already doubled him. I mean, Chase doubles him just in 5 years to what Granderson got in 1 year at 8.5.
Yeah, Chase Young, a big name because he did get drafted so high, But, Chris, the Saints need help on the edge. I mean, Cameron Jordan aging, his production has declined. Granderson had his best season as a pro in a contract the year after his contract season, so that's a great sign. You figure Carl Granderson is going to pay big dividends. You still have Passanwa, who the Saints picked up a few years back from the 49ers. Chase Young, I wouldn't mind the production in theory, but just like Jadeveon Clowney, the game has not transferred from college to the pros like a lot of the experts thought it would. He's been mostly of a run stopper, help on the outside. He's not going to get you 12 sacks a season. He's not a guy that you want to pay $50 million. He is a big name. He is going to bring some help to whatever team does sign him, but he's not going to be an every down, stick your hand in the ground. You can both play the run and play the pass. He's not that guy.
No, I'd love it. I mean, he reminds me of Clowney. He's just been a big bust to the NFL. Yep. I mean, he's just been nothing. With his speed and how big he is, he should be able to come around there. I'd maybe hope that he'd get coached or something. He's lacking from upper body strength, something, or lower body strength. Something's not happening with him because the guy is huge. And he's talented. He comes from Ohio State, had a monster career at Ohio State, hadn't done anything in the pros for the Washington Commanders, came in from San Francisco. 1 year, he's out, and he's shopping around, and he went to Carolina, so we don't know what's going to happen with him. What about wide receiver Hunter Renfrow? Everybody wants this guy. This guy, to me, would be your Lance Moore. Remember Lance Moore a couple of years ago was that safety net with that security blanket? That guy, he was going to be open. Yeah. Your first and second guy's not there. You can look for him, Lance Moore. He's open. I think Hunter Renfrow would be that way, and, of course, he worked with him in Las Vegas.
That's exactly right. Yes, he would be like a Lance Moore role. It's third and Hunter Renfrow, as they used to say when he was in Vegas. And, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Derek Carr is going to play a huge role in the recruitment of a Hunter Renfrow.
Right.
A guy that had a great relationship with Derek Carr, was very comfortable in the way they worked together, both in the offseason and when the work started for week one. So, very talented receiver. He can do the dirty work from the slot. He doesn't mind working over the middle. He has good, reliable hands. Not the fastest guy in the world, but he runs very good routes, and those are the receivers that the Saints have had success with in the past.
Right. Possession receiver. That's what we need, a possession receiver, and that's what they were hurting from last year. They were too much of, getting off on third down conversions. Saints were getting off the field too much with that. Like you did mention, Saints have $15 million in salary cap, and they could get even more with the restructuring of Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara. And, so they have 9 picks coming up in next month's draft in late April. They need help, to me, in left tackle, obviously, and it's same shad to see with Penning. I was a big fan of Penning, thought he was going to be great, but right now, last year, he got killed so much. You could see That big guy, you talk about a big guy like Chase Young, Chase Young rather. That big guy, Penning, getting stood up by defensive tackles. When you see a lineman get stood up like that and pushed back, you're in trouble. And he struggled to find his strength all throughout the year. And hopefully maybe he learned something in the offseason. He could come back and have a great third year. He got hurt most of his first year. Second year got beat up. He should have been hurt. I would have said, I'm hurt. I'd have pulled something in my back or something. That's the reason, Coach, I'm not doing well. He got his behind kicked last year. It wasn't even close with that left tackle spot. So Andres Pete comes in there and plays decent there. So they go to Andres Pete and say, hey, we need you to restructure your contract. Can you do it? Nope. No, come on, help the team out, restructure your contract. Can you help us out? Nope. There's 15. He's got to count 15.9, something like that, $1 million in the dead money to the Saints. So you really can't trade him. If you trade him, you still got that dead money. So keep him, I guess. You got to keep him in that position, but you don't know. He's injury prone. And speaking of big dude, that dude is huge too.
So it's not like the Saints haven't invested in the offensive line.
Right.
You go across the board, yeah, we have Ryan Ramczyk, a first-round pick, Jonathan Goodwin, a second-round pick. You have Andres Pete, a first-round pick. You mentioned Trevor Penning. The guy was a first-round pick. We traded back into the first round to get Penning. Looked good in preseason, his rookie campaign. Barely got on the field. He was mostly a run passer. What I'm hearing with Trevor Penning, a lot of it is retention. Physically, he has all the tools. As strong as an ox, he's a very big guy, has good feet, but his retention in A gap, B gap, who to slide to, second level you're working with, it's not there.
Yeah,
that should have been something picked up in the pre-draft process. It was not. Unfortunately, that's another miss for the Saints at that position. And it all starts up front. College, high school, the pros, the big uglies. If you don't win the trench, you have no shot in winning a football game.
And the blind side of the quarterback.
Yep.
I mean, you can't get anything done. Carr bragged, like you said, bragged on him during preseason.
Yep.
And might have been a little motivating to, hey, we think you're going to be great. Do that, do this. I think they need help at left tackle. I think they need help at wide receiver. They're getting some wide receivers, but they need a deep pool, and they need somebody else who's going to be great other than Chris Olave. Olave could burn the field, but Olave is showing that he's struggled last year in running routes. And I think even watching on TV and going to the games that I went to, I could easily see it was Olave that was struggling in the running of the routes last year. So I think when he got hit right in the face with one of the passes, that's your wide receiver, brother. That's where you put the football. That's where Drew Brees put the football to all of his receivers right in front of their eyes, so they had no excuse they couldn't see the ball. So I think they need help with that. Running back, they talked about maybe Alvin Kamara going and stuff like that, but that obviously is not going to happen. Trading Alvin Kamara, that's not going to happen. I guess for now. It could happen later on. Like I told you, I don't think Alvin Kamara is the number one running back. He's gotten two 100 yards, rushing in 2 years' times. Two. That's not a number one running back in my could. Now, I wouldn't trade him necessarily because he is a defensive coordinator's nightmare going into a game, and stuff of that nature. Somebody's really wanting some barbecue or something like that, Alan. So anyway, that's something you have to deal with. I think that they need to keep Alvin Kamara. There's no question about that. At the running back spot, I think that's what I'm saying. I think they need something at the running back spot. Defensive tackle, too big time. They need some big-time defensive tackle. Somebody's going to be good. So I'll take that $15 million that you've got and maybe more and make it to where we can get that done because that's unbelievable there. Defensive tackle's really struggling for the Saints. And, of course, you can always have depth at the quarterback spot, safety spot. You can never get enough, depth in the DB spot. So that's what I'm looking at. A lot of cap space. The Saints are lucky. And, Jonathan, I want to ask you, do you know, and I forgot to look this up, there were 4 teams that when March 13th came, which was last week, that were over the salary cap. What happens to them? Do they lose draft picks? Do they get fined? Or they get overtaxed like, the NBA where you get overtaxed? Same thing with Major League Baseball?
Now, I do believe there's some sort of money incentive. There's also compensatory picks that you can get taken away or given. The Saints picked up a couple compensatory picks in the 5th round. To answer your question, I don't know 100% what the fine is. I know there's the luxury tax in other sports. I know there's no way to just pay a little bit more money and now it's okay. Like all the teams have to be under the salary cap or, I do believe there's a fine of loss of draft picks as well as an additional monetary fine.
Yeah, see, that's why I like the NFL. It's a hard salary cap. It's not like Major League Baseball,
Right.
and it's not like NBA baseball where you pay a luxury tax.
Right.
And that's what I don't like about that. Now, the only thing in baseball is a luxury tax if you do it 1 year, and the second year the luxury tax expands, and then
Right.
expands again, where you got to do it in the fourth year. You can't go over the luxury tax because it's too expensive. That's what I love about the NFL, because in Major League Baseball, hey, trade deadline has happened. Oh, by the way, but Jonathan, you start with a J, so we're going to make sure that you get to trade to the New York Yankees, and they're going to win the World Series with that. I can't stand that.
No, and Chris, you mentioned D tackle. The Saints lose Malcolm Roach the year before. They lose David Omanyata. It is a thin group. Colin Saunders, who they picked up as a free agent last year, did a great job for the Saints. Big number 99's got great feet. He came in as fullback for a couple times for the offense. Great feet. In the secondary, you lose Marcus May. He never worked out the way the Saints wanted to. Paid him a bunch of money to come from the Jets. Didn't work out. He's going to also hit some dead money. But they picked up that kid from Minnesota in the draft last year, Fuller, and I thought he was the Saints' best safety last year at times with the Honey Badgers. So you lose Yadam. Yadam's chopping around. He was a cornerback that had to play a lot. When you lose a Marshawn Lattimore, who's had a lot of injuries his last couple seasons, Paulson Adebo has been a rock on the outside. He's been outstanding, but going to have some help at cornerback. Also, tight end. I did see one mock draft that showed Brock Bowers falling all the way to the Saints. Don't see that happening, but if at all possible, the Saints could pick a best player available like a Brock Bowers.
Right.
Obviously, you hit that home run right out the park. You say thank you. You take your ball and you go home.
I totally agree. I saw that same thing. I said if Bowers goes there, and they had one person that had Bowers going after the Saints, if the Saints cannot pass on Bowers, they cannot pass on Bowers. He's too good of a tight end, and he runs routes like a wide receiver. Yeah. He is very, very talented, and I hope that they don't pass on him at all. All right, we'll be back to wrap things up right here as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV. We already know that TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10 is home to the world-famous baby back ribs. But did you know they're also champs in catering events and the most delicious wings in Baton Rouge? TJ Ribs wings are flavored to perfection and starts a party in your mouth. Served with homemade wing sauce and ranch dressing. TJ Ribs can also cater any event, large or small, with the MVP, the Heisman, or even if you're feeling the Natty Package. Call 225-283-1035. Come enjoy a drink at the 50-foot bar and take a picture with the Heisman Trophy at TJ Ribs, a Baton Rouge original for over 30 years on Acadian and I-10. The 52nd Annual Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival is just around the corner, and the fun begins on Saturday, March 23rd for the Julian Dufresh Strawberry Day in the Park. There'll be a wing cook-off, car show, strawberry auction, bake-off, and more. Plenty of fun for the whole family. Then, the 52nd Annual Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival runs from Friday, April 12th to Sunday, April 14th, with live music, and the parade is on Saturday, April 13th. Get involved in the egg toss and the always popular strawberry eating contest. Of course, get the best strawberries in the world, grown by local farmers. The biggest festival in the South, the 52nd Annual Ponchatoula Strawberry Festival, April 12th through 14th. We'll see you there.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouger. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouger today.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, here on the week of March 18th, and, of course, on 5 times a week here on Cox Cable. We're seeing in almost 2 million households in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge. 89% of the New Orleans metro has Cox Cable, so they can reach that. Also, 400,000 in Baton Rouge and over 140,000 in the Lafayette area. We're seeing in Morgan City. You can download the app, and you can also watch it on the YouTube channel as well. And we'll be promoting this show as time goes on, as we get where we want to be as far as the show goes on. The Savannah Bananas Sold out 3 games at Alex Box Stadium. Alan was there. I saw you there, Alan. You were there with your banana shirt on. You were going crazy. And even pulled his shirt off at one point in time. They had to tell him to put his shirt back on. He was going crazy. Police were on the scene. Jonathan, you saw that on TV, didn't you? Yeah, they had highlights all over ESPN. Unbelievable. Savannah Bananas, we had Kim Mulkey threw out one of the first pitches. Everybody went crazy with that. Can you believe that? 3 games sold out, and it became a lottery. Not just a ticket you could buy, it became a lottery. You had to give a lottery to get the ticket.
General admission. We waited for a general admission.
Ain't no way in the world the Boston Red Sox and the Yankees would have came to Alex Box Stadium, and I would not be waiting for a general admission. Now, I did that in my old days. Remember the old days with Alex Box with LSU with baseball in the regionals? They do one game, and you had to wait outside the stadium if you wanted to get a chance to see the second game. And we'd get rained out, and all that stuff, but you still stood in line. My dad, my brother, and me stood in line all the time. Now, nowadays at my age, I don't think so. Unbelievable, though. They sold out 3 games at Alex Box Stadium. The New Orleans Pelicans doing really good right now. They've won 7 of their last 10 games. That's right, they're 7-3 in the last 10 games. They are 5th in the West, and with a 41-26 record, should beat the Nets tomorrow night in Brooklyn. Then they'll play the Magic on Thursday. They don't really play well against the Magic. They didn't play this year. They played last year against the Magic. This year so far, they haven't played the Magic. It'll be the first time they're playing them. And then they're playing the Heat. You want to talk about something? Remember they got in a big fight at New Orleans at the Smoothie King Arena last time they played? That's going to be over in Miami. So right now, I think, Jonathan, I don't know about you, bro, but I think that this is the best Pelicans basketball team. They're 5th in the standings, so they're going to make the play-in. They're going to make the playoffs as not a play-in tournament bracket deal. So it looks like so far they got 14 games left. They're really looking good right now.
Big fan of Coach Willie Green. But the best ability, Chris, as we both know, is availability.
Right.
And right now, the Pelicans finally have their roster moving into the back half of a season, looking for a playoff stretch with the guys they're paying hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
It's a fantastic situation for Coach Willie Green because finally he has the players to move into a playoff and not just try to survive a 1-against-8, but actually do some damage, host a couple games. And, exciting around the blender, as they call it, right down at the Smoothie King Dome down in New Orleans. Brandon Ingram, great basketball player. Zion finally starting to come around
Big time.
and carry some of the load for that franchise. But C.J. McCollum, you got to credit him with the turnaround. When he came over from Portland, that's when people kind of started to believe that this is going to be a run for the Pelicans.
I had a friend of mine who's a big-time Laker fan, said it's the best environment he's ever been in to watch a Pelicans game in playoffs.
Wow.
The best environment 2 years ago, best he's ever saw. And one more final note, SWAC basketball, get it out of Birmingham, Alabama. Nobody was there again. All 3 seasons that it's been there that I've been there, it's going down, continuing time and time again. Join us again next week as we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, talk about LSU, Lady Tigers, and a whole lot more. Until then, have a great week, everybody. See you next week on Pelican Sports.